Good morning, everyone. This is Julie Moore, Learning Outcomes Committee Chair, and this morning I'm going to talk to you about the cycle of assessment. This is the full cycle, and I want to talk to you about the parts of it, what it can look like, and at what different levels it is functioning here at Green River. So first of all, what are the cycles? What are the steps in the cycle of assessment? First step is you need to have an outcome. So that usually originates if it's a course like on your car, program outcome, campus-wide outcome, you start there. Second of all, you want to assess that. So you need to gather some student data, whether that is gathering assignments from students in a class or across classes in a program or cross classes in a degree for campus-wide. You need that data to look at. And finally, you're going to figure out what you found as you looked at all that student data. What were the patterns? What things did you learn that you can go back and make changes in your classroom or your program or your campus-wide in order to address what you found? So as you do this cyclically, this is ongoing, it's recursive, and it's happening at those three levels of program, course, and campus-wide throughout. So let's take a look specifically at how this might function, let's say in one of my writing classes. I might start with an outcome around organizing writing. I want students to be able to organize their writing. And the way that I would teach that and assess that is by an outline. So I'm going to ask them to write an outline. I'm going to show them how to do that. I'm going to give them examples. Then I'm going to collect their outlines and I'm going to give them feedback. And in the process of doing that, what I might realize is that I have some students that don't process as easily maybe in a traditional linear format for an outline. And so I might go back into the class and teach them different ways of outlining. I might show them storyboarding. I might look at cluster cluster outlines, a much more visual way, and give them different ways to go about outlining and then recollect that to see if that made a difference. Keep in mind, as I've said, that this happens at three levels, and it's happening simultaneously at three levels: the course, the program, and the campus-wide. So let me walk you through that. At the course, this is probably what we're all the most familiar with because we teach, daily or weekly. We're in there, we're interacting with students, and we are constantly assessing how our students are doing, and we're making changes, whether they're on a very small level individually on a daily basis or a larger level in our classes when we collect a major test or paper. We find things. We find that there are holes that we didn't teach well, or there are things that we assumed we need to go back in and redo. That's course cycle of assessment at the course level. At the program level, this happens more on a yearly basis. So faculty in your program, keep in mind that's your department or sometimes a division, like in the English and Math division, our entire division is a department. So we are gathering every year and we are collecting student work across course sections for the program outcomes that we have. And then we're sitting and we're looking at that evidence and we're trying to figure out what are we finding, what patterns are we seeing, what are students getting, what are they not getting, and what does that lead us to realize that we need to change about our program. For example, that might be a curricular change. It could be a prerequisite change. It could be the addition of a course because we realize that we're missing content there. That is happening on a yearly basis, and then that rolls up into what we call PA&I, which is the program review for each department on campus. This happens every 5 years, and in that program review, we include a lot of things, different numbers and data, but we also include those yearly program assessments that we've been doing in order to show patterns over time of what the program is doing to improve. PA&I, what faculty will do is they sit down with the Vice President of Instruction, and there's an interview process involved with this too, so that the Vice President of Instruction is also aware of some of the patterns and the program needs. So all this is feeding together to do that program assessment. The last level is the campus-wide level. And how this works is that faculty across discipline areas are all feeding up data, student work, around our 4 campus-wide outcomes, which again are written communication, student responsibility, critical thinking, and quantitative and symbolic reasoning. So this data is coming in, and then yearly interdisciplinary teams of faculty gather to look at this data and to see, again, patterns. What are we seeing as we look across entire degree programs, interdisciplinary? What are students getting and what are they not getting in regard to those 4 campus-wide outcomes? And then there's a report back to the larger faculty to say, what do we need to do to address the findings the gaps that we may be finding. So the cycle of assessment, as I said, ongoing, recursive, and almost like a tricycle, the 3 levels or the 3 wheels of a tricycle, they're always all going. So you're doing all 3 of these Even though you may only be feeling like you're doing daily in the classroom, some of that data is also being captured and brought up to look at a larger level along program and campus-wide. So if you have any further questions about this or you want to get involved with some of these different levels of assessment, please contact me or your learning outcomes representative. We would love to work with you.